Hello, today I wanted to talk to you about this book. It's called For Everyone, Bible Study Guides, James Tom Wright. So, it's by Tom Wright and it's a Bible study based on a book in the New Testament. I guess say the Old Testament, the New Testament part of the Bible, part of a chapter of the book of James. So, for example, Chapter 1 is a challenge of faith, and that comes from James 1 to 8. And one of the things it talks about there is not to be like a wave that is tossed to and fro in the sea, but which should have a firm faith. Chapter 2 is again based on James chapter 1, but this time verses 9 to 18, and it's titled The Snares of the World and the Gift of God. Of course, the gift of God, we're talking about salvation and being with God for eternity and having God's presence with us now. And the snares of the world are what things get us now. Well, it's the other things we desire, our love for what our desires, that we want things, we want money. And so chapter 3 of this Bible study, the word that goes to work. How God's word, do you know God's word, it transforms us, it changes us through his love working in us. It transforms our mind, and we're not to just get angry and that, we're to be patient, and patience is one of the things that goes throughout the book. The next chapter is chapter 4, which is now moving on to chapter 2 of James. I know it's a bit tricky. Chapter 4 of the Bible study, chapter 2 of James, verses 1 to 13. And it's about having no favours. And so two people come into church, one very rich, one very poor, and we're not called to show favouritism. And of course part of that is that true riches are in heaven, and they're not made of material wealth that we've got now. The next chapter is chapter 5. It's still based on James chapter 2, but this time verses 14 to 26. It talks about faith and works. So parts of the church has had big arguments in the past. I'm saved by faith, I'm not saved by doing good things. And then the answer to that is, well, if you're saved by your faith, then why aren't you doing good things? So we should be doing good works, I think, is the answer. But our motivation for doing that is our response to God's love for us, the fact that we have faith in him. So to be clear, we're not right with God through doing good works. We're right with God through Jesus, through his sacrifice on our behalf for all the wrongs that we've done. And when we accept that and receive that right standing with God, then our response to that should be that we desire to do good works. That was quite good. I could think of some more to say about that one. So, chapter 6 of this book is based on James chapter 3, verses 1 to 18. Taming the tongue. What we say, there's the examples given in the book of James about how a ship may have a small rudder that controls its direction, and how a horse can have a bit in its mouth that's a small thing that can be used to control it, and how our words that we say with our tongue can have a big impact on the direction of our lives and other people's lives. Do we seek to build people up? Do we seek to encourage others, or do we seek to bring them down? I think it's so important to wherever possible, you be encouraging to others. You don't need to criticise, you don't need to find what's wrong, you could find what's right in something. Next chapter is chapter 7 of the Bible study, which is based on James 4, verses 1 to 17. Humility and faith. So that's interesting. What is it to be humble? Well, I would suggest that being humble is a belief that I can't do everything myself. I'm dependent upon God for every breath. I'm dependent upon God for this every moment of life, and I believe that God knows more than me, and I seek his wisdom and his way of doing things. The opposite of that, being proud, is that I do it all myself. It's all me, and it's not with God. So chapter 8 is based on James, chapter 5, verses 1 to 12. And it's about the rich and suffering. And really this covers the inequalities in our world, how the rich have so much, the poor don't, and how the rich seem to get richer, the inequality gap and the injustice of that seems to increase. And how the systems in this world are set up to keep things that way. Chapter 9 is about praying in faith. We often use the example of farmers. One farmer prays for rain, the other farmer prays for rain, but only one of the farmers then goes out and sows their seed. And we're called to be like the farmer who sows their seed. In summary then, I like this book. It helped us to do an in-depth study into the Word, into James. I'll give it 8, possibly 9 out of 10, purely because there was some questions that I didn't know how to answer, and there was some parts of the book seemed a little difficult to understand. So if you'd like to get more videos like this, if this was helpful, please like and subscribe. In the description box, which I think would be below, there should be a link where you could buy a copy of this book should you wish to get one. And for my details on my channel over here, thank you very much. Goodbye.